Good evening. Just minutes before former New England Patriot Aaron Hernandez appeared in court for a probable cause hearing, Patriots coach Bill Belichick was at Gillette Stadium explaining how he could have hired the player now accused of murder. Hernandez's probable cause hearing was put off, but the proceeding continued as lawyers for media outlets argued that more documents in the case should be made public. Wearing handcuffs and a blue blazer, a scruffy-looking Aaron Hernandez appeared today in Attleboro District Court, looking on as his defense attorney argued against releasing further case details to the media.
The way this has been run is systematically undermining Mr. Hernandez's right to a fair trial.
Also in court, the family of Odin Lloyd, the man Hernandez is charged with murdering on the night of June 17th. Family members were stoic until mention of Odin's name unleashed tears from at least one. The judge granted a request to delay a probable cause hearing until August 22nd. As Hernandez was let out, he gestured to his girlfriend in the gallery. Meanwhile, just 12 miles away, Patriots coach Bill Belichick finally addressed the unavoidable.
It's really a sad day on so many levels. But I'm personally disappointed and hurt in a situation like this.
Until today, Belichick had been publicly silent about Hernandez, leading to intense criticism in the media.
But I think he owes an explanation to the NFL. I think he owes an explanation to the fans. I think he owes an explanation to the process of how he was on the team.
Belichick admitted in his usual terse manner that the player signing process has obvious flaws.
I can tell you that we look at every player's history from the moment we start discussing it, going back to his family, where he grew up, what his lifestyle was like, and unfortunately, this most recent situation with the charges that are involved is not a good one on that record.
But after his brief moment of contrition, Belichick reverted to form, refusing to answer specific questions about Hernandez and expressing a desire to move on.
And I cannot comment on any player who has ongoing criminal charges and legal situations. Again, that's not something that I could comment on. It's time for the New England Patriots to move on.
That may no longer be his choice. And joining me now are Boston Herald sports columnist Ron Borges and former NFL player Stalin Kalanick. Welcome to both of you.
Welcome.
Well, Ron, you had quite the blistering column this morning saying this time Bill Belichick can't do his normal. He's got to, man up and address this head on. Was what he said today satisfactory to you?
Yeah, I really think that it was. I think he sort of, I'm not going to take credit for it, but if there was a game plan, it was in the Herald, and he followed it, even to the point, as I mentioned in the column, that you're the man responsible for bringing this guy into the community. And he acknowledged that and accepted responsibility for that as best he could. Now, that's not to say he's responsible for Aaron Hernandez's alleged actions. But I thought he did the best you could to make a statement that revealed how he felt. I thought it was pretty heartfelt. He clearly was sad. I know he invested a lot of time, personal time, in trying to help Hernandez. And I think he was shocked and taken aback and took as much responsibility as you could expect.
He never mentioned by name the victim, which I thought was a mistake. He should have said Odin Lloyd. But Bill Belichick seems incapable of sort of addressing things on a personal level. And somebody, I don't know who it was in the press conference, asked him that, how it affected him. He didn't address that either.
Right, and I think that's the thing that's very hard for him in a completely different area. Years ago when he was in Cleveland, he used to do a little local show, and at one point, the guy asked him what his favorite music was, which of course was Bon Jovi now, as everybody knows. And he refused to answer the question. They had to stop the taping 3 times. And he finally said, the guy finally said, "What's the problem?" He said, "It's none of their business what I listen to in the car." So that's just sort of him, But I thought he gave as much as he's capable of giving.
As he's capable of. One of the things that came up today was the issue of maturity. And that's been said about Aaron Hernandez in the past, Colin, that he lacked maturity. What does that mean? I mean, I don't know Aaron Hernandez. I've never talked to him. You probably both have. How did that display itself? How did it manifest? And was that a problem in terms of this behavior? Are the two related in some way?
Yes and no, right? When they talk about maturity for a player, they're talking about not just the experiences this person has had on the field, but off the field. And we got a very young player for the Patriots when they got him, I believe, 21, right? So at that point, you know, the guy should have been a senior in college all the way through, not in the NFL, where you get another full year of maturity under your belt. So I think with in this case, when they say maturity-wise, they're saying the experiences that are off the football field that define a man's character. And I believe he didn't have enough of that.
How can you describe him, Ron?
Well, I think that's Stellan's completely right. You know, I think when you look at a guy like Aaron, you know, he's a big, strong guy. He's 6'3" or 4", and he's 230 or 40 pounds. Runs like the wind. He's a millionaire, and you make certain suppositions. You know, dresses, you know, well when you see him out in certain places. So you think, well, he's a man. He's an adult. Well, in many cases, these guys are not. They sort of somehow got stopped at age 15 or so. And certainly the sports culture, in my opinion, and the football culture for sure, retards that progress. They really don't want you to be an adult who questions things and says, hey, well, wait a minute, why are we doing this or why are we doing that? Well, when that happens, I think it carries over into your life, too. And you maybe you don't ask the questions that you should ask or even have an interest in finding out.
It's a little unclear whether he had any gang affiliations. We think that the tattoos were unrelated, but if the charges are correct, he had, you know, a mini arsenal of guns. He carried them around. If again the charges are correct, if his feelings were hurt or he felt personally dissed, it seems at least on 3 instances he took it out by pulling out a gun and shooting people. This guy in Florida, possibly these 2 men in the South End, and now Odin Lloyd.
Yeah,
is that a part of maturity that we're talking about?
Man, Emily, on that one right there, you look at what you see as a history of this gun violence pretty much is starting to unravel. And with him, you know, and what he's going through and what he's been through, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, what do you do? You know, he lost his father at 16. You know, he relied on his friends to be his camaraderie and his group to go ahead and be his support. You know, not much growth there. I call it misplaced loyalty to some of the people that you hang out with growing up, and sort of carrying them to your level of professionalism, you know, of stardom. And so some of these guys got a free ride up to the big boys, and because of that, you know, those decisions, you know, this guy may have not had the best counsel behind him.
Bill Belichick says today he wants to move forward, and I think this is going to dog him the entire season. For one thing, he's lost both of his tight ends. A lot of the game was organized around those 2 people, Wes Welker and Aaron Hernandez. So every time something goes wrong this season, Ron, are they going to harken back and say, "Oh, if only Aaron Hernandez was there, and if only was."
Sure. I mean, there'll be some of that if the offense stalls, especially early in the season when it looks like Robin Gronkowski physically won't be there as well. So sure, there'll be, I think, some of that, and I think also there's going to be a continuing parade of events and court appearances and things leaked out, and then the grand jury indictments that you are going to be difficult to ignore. Belichick's pretty good at it. I do think that teams and athletes, professional athletes, are very good at moving on. They're used to guys disappearing, injuries, trades, releases. This is different. But I think a key thing is I don't think he had very many friends in that locker room. My understanding is the connections were pretty tenuous, and I think that's going to make it easier for the players.
What do you think, Colin? Is going to?
You know, I believe that, you know, the Pats have a history of winning, no matter who is on the team. You know, as long as Brady's at the helm, these guys have always produced. They've always produced, and I believe, you know, that these guys will go ahead and you're a pro, so you're paid to be a professional, to go ahead and sort of turn the outside noise off and focus on your job at hand. And what a great opportunity for Tim Tebow to come into this team, right, and step up and be a leader, because he, you know, his name hasn't been the best around the league, given what he's gone through in the last year or so. You get guys out there to go ahead and step up on different spots. You know, these guys can rise to the occasion, and they can have a quality team and say salvage their season before it even begins.
But it's going to dog them.
Oh, sure it will. Yeah, I mean, it's a sad situation, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, no question.
All right. Thanks you both for coming. Ron, Borges, Stalin, Colin A., thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.